Christina Benty. Christina!
This is so fun.
It's so fun.
I know.
Man, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Me too.
You're always so happy. You and I have had some great conversations on the beach in Mexico, here, laying in the sun, being lazy.
Yep.
Me trying to get you into the water, and you're being a little bit of a sissy.
Are you actually saying that?
I am actually. But you know,
do you want to arm wrestle?
Well, I wouldn't go
I'll forget that story.
Yeah, so excited. And yeah, so why don't we just get right into it? And what are you up to in the world?
Oh, I love this question actually, because it's such a multi-layered question, right? What are you up to in the world?
I know, like the question, like what do you do or something like that is just, it's not really enough, eh? But what are you up to in the world?
Yeah, no, and I like I said, I love the question. I think it's a really great question because we focus so much on what we do rather than how we can be in the world. So, what are you up to in the world? I think just is so rich. You know, it's interesting because I oftentimes think about, okay, what do I do and what am I up to in the world? And when I distill it down, so much of what I'm up to is I help leaders integrate, take the theoretical aspects of leadership and integrate them into their daily activity and into their daily behavior. So but it doesn't just happen in my work, it happens in all of my relationships where, whether I'm working doing policy development work or strategic planning or governance training, or just having a meaningful conversation with someone like yourself, it's always how do you get curious and help people take the theoretical aspects of leadership, whether it's leading their own life or leading a team or leading a community, and translate that into their everyday activities and ways of being. So when I think about what I'm up to in the world, that's kind of it in a distilled sort of fashion.
Is that your passion?
Yes, it's totally my passion. It really is. And like I said, it translates into different ways. It translates into things like it's taking, whether it's strategic planning or whether it's dealing with infrastructure management for local governments. It's theory to action to it's that know, do, be, right?
Yeah,
how do you be it? So that's
so amazing, because I think there's so many people that want to do different things, and that's a big question. So I want to do this, but how do I implement it, right? So you're the one to talk to about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, good. So when I get a really great idea, like talking to people about happiness, I'll have to talk.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's awesome. So what makes you happy, Christina? Actually, I'm gonna ask you two questions.
Okay.
What makes you happy, and what just simply puts a smile on your face?
What can I answer the first one?
Absolutely.
First? Okay. What puts a smile on my face is gratitude, being grateful for everything around me. Like when I really digest the life that I have, the wonderful people that are in it, that my physical health and well-being, the places that I've seen and the experiences that I've had, that sense of just a rich and interesting life, it is my deep gratitude for that puts a smile on my face. And so when I think about that, I think about it all the time. If I go and really what makes me happy then is my that gratitude for life. So whether I'm going for a run and I feel super thankful that my body's actually, that my legs are working and that my lungs are working and that I can go for a run, or I can sit on the beach and have a meaningful conversation with someone like yourself, or I can get up and give a workshop to a group of people, I am so grateful for all of the interesting things that happen in my life, and it's that gratitude that puts a smile on my face. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally agree, and I feel the same way. And it's a lot of times it really is simple things, right? Like just honestly being grateful for a sunrise, or grateful for me for being like a hot cup of coffee in the first thing in the morning. Like just simple things, right? But that's awesome.
And I'm with you on that. I am so, like, when I drink my coffee in the morning, I am grateful for it. Or when I put my head down on my pillow, I'm grateful for it, knowing that there's some people that don't have a bed to sleep in or a pillow to put their head in. And I'm just super, super grateful that I have the life that I have, and I want to spread that kind of sense of gratitude to others, because partly, and you of course know some of my political background. One of the things that I experienced as a politician was people complaining and always telling me what was wrong and and I think that it's important to recognize what can be better. But lots of times, and focus on, okay, how do we make things better? And but oftentimes people focus on what's wrong, and they're looking to someone to complain to, and blame and be upset about, instead of focusing on what's going well and what can be better. Right? And just reframing that in a positive way. And I think partly because I was so inundated with sort of people's complaints and frustrations, I wanted to make sure that I cultivated an attitude of gratitude without getting overwhelmed by other people's negativity. So
that's awesome. Yeah, because you're always so happy and you're always upbeat, and you have like the best laugh ever.
So do you. Talking about laugh, you've got the best laugh.
I sound like when I really laugh, I sound like a cartoon character.
Actually, that's true.
So don't make me laugh too hard.
Okay. Actually, you should see you got the best giggle, and I've heard you giggle before. You can't stop.
Probably when I'm working.
No, that's awesome. But when I think about sort of activities that make me happy, that is things like I said, being active, eating well, having meaningful conversations. But the biggest one I think that makes me happy is when I feel like I've made a difference. When I feel like I've made a difference on an individual level or on a corporate level, or with my audience, with the people that I'm working with. So whether it's a big audience or a small audience, or it's an individual audience, if I feel like I made a contribution and a connection, that makes me happy. So I'm hardwired. I really love connection. That's super, super important to me.
Well, that again leads me to the next question, which is, how has your view of happiness changed over the years? Because if that was hardwired in you, were you a little kid? I was like, hey, come to the store with me and let me buy you. Like, were you always like that? Like, how has your view of happiness changed over the years?
I think I've always been enthusiastic about life and about experiences. I think my view of happiness, though, I really did sort of, in some ways, have struggled with, once I get, once my kids get a little older and I can sleep through the night, right, then I'll be happy. And once they're in school and I have a little more free time, then I'll be happy. Or once I make it to the weekend, then I'll be happy. And the temptation, I think, always it is always to live there for, okay, once I get to this place, I'll be happy. And when I have those thoughts come into my head, then I'm like, this is your present moment is the only moment that you have. So why don't you choose happiness? So in some ways it is grabbing that moment by moment experience and recognizing this really is the only moment that you have. And so in terms of how I think that's changed, I'm much quicker to jump back into, this is, you can be happy right now. What's good about this moment, right? What's special about this moment, whether you're hopping into the car for a long trip and you don't feel like driving for that long. What's good about this moment? Oh, I've got some quiet time. I can do some, not meditation while I'm driving, but I can do, you know, some singing or something like that, right? So it's the little things and the simple things, reminding yourself that this is all that you have. One of my favorite mentors, Martha Beck, she often talks about the recognizing that, like right now as we're sitting here, our eyes are blinking, our heart's beating, our lungs are taking in air. That's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot of subconscious activities going on, and there's nothing in this moment that's wrong, right? So if this is the moment that you're in and there's absolutely nothing wrong, then be in that moment instead of being in the future or in the past.
Yeah, you know, it's really, you know, I feel the same way. You know, you just got to grab those moments, all those moments. It's such a practice, though, because, you know, for all of us, you know, you, me, all of us, you know, you know, we're so habitually kind of have trained ourselves, I guess, since we were kids to you know, think it can always be better. It can always be better, but just that practice, like, no, this is pretty awesome. This is pretty awesome. This moment is pretty awesome.
So do you struggle with that as well, like having to pull yourself back into the moment? Because that's one thing that I really have appreciated about our conversations, is that you exemplify somebody who's very grateful and who enjoys each moment and doesn't get really stressed out about things that are going on around you. But you know, acceptance is accepting the moment, accepting the challenges. Do you find you have to do the same thing, pull yourself back into the moment?
Well, honestly, not very often anymore, because I practiced it though. I mean, it's not like you know, yesterday I decided, oh, I'm going to be happy about everything, and now I'm always happy. But I practiced it for so long, you know, like over, you know, 10 years or 20 years, you know, has been a process of me just trying to kind of, you know, enjoy life and make the most of things and really appreciate it. So for me, it's just the way I am at this point. But it took a lot of work. It took a lot of time, you know, you go, what, you know, 2 steps forward, a step back, until eventually it's just like, yeah, no. So honestly, I don't really have very many times when I'm not pretty happy and appreciative of the moment. I mean, because there's joy in everything. There's joy in everything. And I remember being a kid, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was my idol. And I remember I didn't really understand it so much at the time, but that was one thing he has always said from day one. Everything he does, it's got to be joyful. Everything he does is joyful, and that's one of the reasons why he's so successful, because he can sit there and do the things that have to be done because he finds the joy, focuses on the joy. And I think that's one of the keys to success, really, a happy life. And do you agree?
I do. I think you're right. I think if you pay attention to the clues, what gives you joy, what gives you a sense of presence, what are you enthusiastic about, and doing that, there's a strong correlation between that and success, right? Absolutely. Because you make that connection, and that's where your energy lies. And so when you bring energy into the work that you do and into your way of being in the world, that kind of energy, that's that connects with being successful.
Absolutely. And it's so infectious, right? People want to be around you. People want to, opportunities come to you. It's just so infectious if you're joyful.
Yeah,
Joy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So do you think generally people are happy, like in general, and in the general society?
Well,
Am I clear with the question? Am I being clear with the question?
what's that?
Am I being clear with the question?
Yeah, you're being clear with the question. Absolutely, you're being clear. I, what's interesting about the question is that if I were to sort of measure people's happiness based on things like what we see in the news or on social media, or people commenting on the state of the world, then I'd be like, oh my gosh, everybody's miserable. but I think that I feel very fortunate that I am very surrounded by people who are generally pretty joyful and fairly happy. That being said, there's a good segment of the population that is very, like I said, very focused on what's wrong, and very focused on kind of blaming other people for their circumstances, or blaming, angry about the weather, angry about the traffic, angry about, overdevelopment, angry about underdevelopment, angry about, that their garbage got picked up an hour too late or something, or angry about circumstances around them. And I do witness that. And I think that there's a lot of people that argue with reality and don't practice acceptance for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I find when I'm engaged in a conversation with somebody, it's like they know they have access to their own happiness. They know they're responsible for it at some level, but when they forget that, then they start to get highly agitated, and, like I said, focus on what's wrong in the world. So it's kind of one of those both and things, right? Where people want to be happy, but they're not super clear on the fact that happiness actually is a practice that exists for them, that they have access to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And part of it is owning your own emotional landscape, right? Like taking ownership over your own emotional responses and landscape of your life. Mm-hmm. What can I do in this moment? To be present, to bring joy, to bring happiness. What's good about this moment? And even, like I said, asking, okay, well, what can be better, instead of what's wrong and who's to blame. So I think, the majority of people struggle against that. They waffle between that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really an observer of people and of life, and I've asked a lot of questions of myself and this and that, and I think so. I watch people, and I think. Did I lose you? Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I thought it blacked out for a second. The screen. Oh, yeah. It's saying my internet connection is unstable, but I'm not sure if that means anything really. But anyways, yeah. So I watch people, and I'm an observer, and I just think that people are so busy. They're so distracted that they just kind of forget the simplicity of, like, just take a deep breath, and it'll pass, and it'll be fine, and just have fun, enjoy this moment. Like you were saying, enjoy this moment. Like, just take a deep breath, or do what you got to do, but it'll pass if it's stressing you out.
Yeah. And that's why I think people like yourself serve to remind others around them to be present, and to take access to happiness. And it's not because you've had a super easy life and you've been born with a silver spoon in your mouth. It's because you've actually had to work hard, right, at being present and accessing happiness, and not getting too worked up about things, but accepting the moments as as they are and in embracing reality. I like the expression, and it's a simple one, right? You know, you can't argue with the weather, but you know, that would be crazy making, but you dress for the weather, right? So it's not, you don't argue with your reality, you adapt to your reality.
Yeah, yes, that's awesome, and it's so true, and it's so simple, but people are just, I don't know, they're just so distracted or whatever to just kind of focus on that, I think.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you my next question, which was, what do you think is the solution for people to kind of break that cycle, to access, like, generally happiness?
A
Kind of
couple.
answered that, but
What's that?
you kind of answered that.
Well, then maybe I'll answer it again in sort of maybe a short form. Again, I think practicing gratitude, what's good about this moment, what's good about what's going on right now, what are the lessons that I need to learn, managing your own emotional landscape. Oh, okay, why am I responding to this with anxiety or fear, or what's really going on for me, and what do I need to pay attention to? And also just being present to the moment. This is the only moment that you have. How can I be present to? You know what I found to be interesting is when I've gone on a holiday, you know, sometimes the temptation is you start counting down the days that I've heard people count down the days that they have to go back. They'll be like, oh, I have to go back in 5 days or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, but you're here right now. Why are you counting down the days? And so one of the things I like to do especially when I love where I'm at, is stop getting stressed out about, okay, what, you know, worrying about when it's going to be over, but to actually be present at that moment. And honestly, it feels like it stretches out the holidays.
You know, it's so funny you say that, because people will always ask me, like, you know, when I'm on vacation or whatever, I'll always feel like, man, that was like forever. Or when Shar and I are in Mexico, and it's just like, I can't believe we've only been here a week or 2 weeks. It feels like we've been here forever.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like that it's just being present to the moment. Like, when you get there, you know, for me, it's like every moment, you know, I enjoy this. Every sunrise, I enjoy all the little cool little things, and I really soak it in, like a cool breeze on a hot day, just, you know, everything, watching the bats flying around at night. Every little experience is so, and to me, is magical. And it's just like, so every single day is filled with all these simple, crazy experiences that stretch it out and just make it like, oh my God, that was like so amazing. It's so long. It's awesome. But I think it's like you say, though, it's literally just appreciating all these little simple things, right?
Yeah. And you know, staying on the theme of simplicity, I think also we forget the value, like collective we forget the value of the simple things like eating properly and exercising and getting rest and play and meaningful conversations and connection. All of those simple little things in life that contribute, I think, to our happiness big time. Instead, we're scarfing down food, and we're you know, I don't have time to exercise, and we don't have enough time to sleep. Lots of people live these lives, like you said, that are insanely busy without doing some of the simple things that actually bring joy, and not scheduling, not making time for them, realizing that actually helps you expand time. The better shape you're in, the better you eat, and the more rested you are, you expand time instead of contract it.
I know, I totally agree. Yeah, and like you say, just taking all those little moments of eating and this and that, and expand it all.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I think I'm getting the call for that our time is getting coming out to an end. I don't even know where are we at. Do you know what time we're at? We're pretty close, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, oh man, I wish I could talk to you for like 2 hours.
I know.
But, one of these days.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having this little chat.
Thank you. And I honestly want to say thank you for your way of being in the world. You are a rare gem who is a real joy spreader. And I I'm so pleased that I've gotten to know you, because obviously Shar is a dear, dear friend of mine, and the very fact that I've gotten to know you and see what a beautiful soul you are, I'm super, super grateful. And you are a joy spreader. And that is a rare and precious gift. So thank you for doing this, for inviting me to participate, and for your way of being in the world.
Oh, thank you so much. I remember being a kid, feeling so lost and so like useless, and I thought, man, if I could have some purpose in the world, and that people wanted to hear it. I think maybe my purpose is just talk about happiness and bring happiness and make people feel happy. So I'm very, very happy to be doing
And you are, which is so great.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.